Hello fellow YouTubers, John here and welcome back to a new edition of Ready Player Movies. So how are you all doing? I hope you're all doing really well. Now, what have I been doing this last few weeks? Well, to be honest with you, I've not been doing an awful lot. I've just recently had my birthday. I've hit the big 40. Um, don't feel a day over 60. Uh, yeah, yeah, and I actually mean that. I actually mean that. Yeah, I don't feel a day over 60. Um, this body's knackered. It really is. Uh, anyway, yeah, I've hit the big 40, and like I say, I actually feel pretty good. I feel pretty good. Um, so what have I actually got in store for you today? Well, we're not in the car, obviously. That's blatantly obvious because we're in my room, and obviously you'll have noticed that things are looking a little different. I've decided to switch things back to the way they were, um, simply because with obviously with being a movie collector, the corner was looking a bit, it was looking a bit all over the place. It just wasn't really working properly in the end. It wasn't too bad at the start, but it's just looking very untidy. So I thought I'll put everything back as it was, and it actually looks a lot better than what it did. So it is going to stay like that for the indefinite in case if anything really major happens. But other than that, um, this video well, say this video, there's going to be maybe another two or three videos attached to this, so they'll go into a playlist. A couple of months ago, I thought about doing a video where I chose my favourite movie from every year that I've been on the on that I've been alive, basically, since I was going to be hitting the magic 40. I thought, why not tell you guys what my favourite movie is from each year that I've been since I was born. So we're going 40 years, we're going through 40 years. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be over, like I said, over a couple of videos, maybe four. I might do a decade at a time, so it'll be 81 to 91, 91 to 2001, and the rest, you get the drift. So yeah, that's what's going to happen here. So for this one, sit back, enjoy. If you want to go and get yourself some munch, get yourself set up, and then we can get underway. So without further ado, let's do this and see 81 to 91 in. All right, everyone. So now that we're all comfortable and all sorted, let's start and get into uh, these movies. So starting off with 1981. Wow, this really was a tough one, and I mean it really was a tough one because there were so many iconic movies that came out in that year. It was so hard. It really was. But I eventually got around to narrowing it down, and it was a matter of picking between three: The Howling, Joe Dante's The Howling, Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead, and John Landis's American Werewolf in London. Which one of those three do you think that I picked? I'll give you a couple of seconds. If you've been following me for quite some time, you may already know what I'm going to pick out of that list. may know which one I will pick out of that. American Werewolf in London. American Werewolf in London is my pick for 1981. Why is it my pick for 1981? Pretty much because it was one of the first werewolf films that I actually saw, from start to finish, and the one that really scared the shit out of me at the time as well, especially that nightmare sequence with the especially with that nightmare sequence that absolutely terrified me. It was so surreal. It came out of absolutely nowhere. Oh man, and since then, it's, you know, from the multiple watches that I've from the multiple watches, it's grown on me. It grew on me so much. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love The Howling as well. I do like my werewolf movies, and I thought The Howling was absolutely amazing for what he did. But with regards to the actual transformation, nothing come. I mean, as good as The Howling was for its visuals, nothing compared that to what Rick Baker did in American Werewolf. Considering the fact that he left The Howling to work with John Landis. But then again, we had Rob Bottin stepped in for that for The Howling. Anyway, he would eventually go on to do many other great movies anyway. But it's not just really the visuals that got me for American Werewolf. It was the whole concept of the whole thing, with it being more like it being played as a comedy rather than being a serious film. It was just such a great concept at the time, and hadn't really been done before, and it was really good to see that there was something that didn't quite take itself so seriously, even though it was a serious werewolf film. It just had those little splashes of humour here and there, just to sort of counterbalance what's actually going on throughout the film. I just think it was a real treat to watch, especially for its time. And like I said, the visual effects, when you look at the first transformation, it just, you can't beat visuals like that. I mean, if you release this film with those effects today, there's just absolutely no comparison. It looks just as good then as it would have done if it was done today with CGI. It's just incredible. So that's why it gets my number one spot for 1981. So moving on to 1982, I did say that Rob Bottin made it in his future films, and this next one is no exception. And for those people that have been watching my channel for some time, you're gonna know what this movie is, because I've raved about this so many times. John Carpenter's The Thing is my number one movie for 1982. This film, honestly, not so much with it being like a creature feature, but like I said, with American Werewolf, that was one of the first werewolf films that I watched. The Thing was one of the horror movies that really gave me nightmares. As much as Jaws did, The Thing did just that as well. And I didn't get to see that until I was maybe 16 or 17, and it gave me nightmares for weeks, absolutely weeks. One of those, I've just got so many fond memories of those nightmares, because they were bizarre. But you know, when you look at a horror film, you don't just want to be scared shitless. You want to have that element of like, ooh, nasty type stuff. You know, you want to see good makeup effects, and this movie is such a homage to that kind of to that kind of horror. Plus the fact that it's set in it's got that kind of uneasiness about it as well. You know, it's got a very uneasy atmosphere about it. You know, you got these guys that are I wouldn't necessarily say stranded. They're not stranded. They just can't communicate with anyone. They're all together in this big complex, and then the shit really hits the fan, basically, uh, with a creature that just comes out of nowhere, basically. They don't know what to do or how to deal with it, or anything like that, and it's just one of those films that just it just baffles me that this film wasn't actually a major success at the time that it came out. Critics absolutely hated it, didn't get very good reception with the public, but now it's one of the most best loved horror films in horror history, and well done, John Carpenter. It is a remake of the I don't remember the actual novel, the person that actually wrote the book, but it's a remake of the 1952 movie The Thing from Another World, which was more closely which was more closer to the book than the no, sorry, I've got that wrong. John Carpenter's vision is the one that's more closer to the novel, rather than the 52 movie, where it took a more scientific approach to what was going on. But yeah, The Thing, 1982, my number one movie, my number one 1982 movie. Now moving on to 1983, and we have the movie The Dead Zone, one of possibly a couple more Stephen King movie adaptations. Really like this film. Stars Christopher Walken as a guy who is in a nasty car crash, and he wakes up from a 3-year coma with psychic abilities and the rest. And I'm not going to tell you about the rest of the film, because literally that is all you need to know about it. It's such a great film. Christopher Walken is absolutely spot on, and everybody else that stars in the film is also really good. Really do recommend you watch it. It's one of the few Stephen King films that does actually work as that does actually work as a movie. So yeah, that's The Dead Zone, everyone. Next up, I'm having to look at my bit of paper here, because I never remember the order of these. Never remember which movies that I picked. Actually, I've got them all written down so I can get my reference. Anyway, 1984. I shouldn't have had to look at this one. Now, even though 84 was massive big deal for cinema, with a ton of iconic movies. The one film that does stand out for me in that year, believe it or not, is James Cameron's The Terminator. This film made me fall in love with science fiction. I was the first time I sort of watched this all the way through, I was probably about maybe 12, maybe even 13, something like that. But I did actually. I first watched it when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, but I was caught watching it when I shouldn't have been watching it, and it got turned off. And I said, "You're not to watch that film, and you're not to watch that film. It's not suitable for you." And I was like, "Okay, whatever, you know." Anyway, a few years later, watched it again. Absolutely loved it. Just loved it. The whole concept of a cyborg going back to the past to eliminate the mother of the freedom fighter of the future against the machine against the machines, I just thought was such a great idea for a film, and James really knocked it out of the park. And even the actor, even the main title cast, Arnold Schwarzenegger, in not quite his first movie, but the movie that really shot him into stardom. What a phenomenal performance from Arnold, considering the fact that he was originally offered the role of Kyle Reese. Was just like, why would you cast a hulking guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger as the as the as as a protector for this woman, when he could potentially be actually the machine itself? You know, a big hulking guy. You, you know that you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley at night. It made that sense, and that was Arnold's choice to play to actually be the Terminator. Believe it or not, I just thought that was such a great decision from him. Even though he didn't really have a great deal of experience in being an actor, with him only doing like sort of like the bodybuilding type movies, you know, from his past, from the likes of Pumping Iron and Hercules and all that sort of thing as well. I thought it was a really good move from him to actually consider playing the Terminator. So yeah, really well rounded film, brilliantly executed. Loved the third act of the film. Oh, just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, that's the Terminator from 1984. 1985. Again, shouldn't have had to look at this one, because there's only I just shouldn't have had to look at this one. One of many of the late great Richard Donner's classic movies. Before he jumped on board for the Lethal Weapon series, the Goonies. The Goonies for me is the epitome of adventure, especially a kid's adventure movie. I mean, you can set aside Explorers, Stand By Me, and all of them adventure films. The Goonies, that's the movie. You know, excuse me, sorry. The Goonies is an absolutely amazing film. I mean, take it or leave it. There's a few people out there that don't actually like the Goonies, and I think you're an idiot. Really, you're an idiot if you don't like the Goonies. I mean, seriously, it's probably the best loved kids adventure films out there. I just think it's great. I really do. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and hats off to Richard Donner for having to put up with that many children in one film. But yes, rest in peace, Richard. Your legacy in film has been absolutely absolutely amazing. Rest in peace, mate. Really, really rest in peace. So yes, that's the Goonies, everyone, from 1985. Now, my choice for 1986 might actually surprise you. Well, no, 1987 is the one that's the big surprise. 1986 is the turn of one David Cronenberg, with his remake and retelling of the film The Fly from 1956 or 58, something like that. Yes, Jeff Goldblum as Seth Brundle in The Fly. Another film that I actually hold quite dearly. This is satire at its very best. This film really is such a great watch, not just for the fact that everybody puts in such great performances, but what everything else that goes on in this film had to offer. I mean, the visual effects were just are absolutely unbelievable. Some of the stuff that they managed to pull off, I thought was just absolutely astonishing. You know, I mean, it wasn't quite the level of American Werewolf, and not quite on the level as American Werewolf, but it wasn't far off. It really isn't far off being some of the best stuff that you've ever seen in a film. But but the actual storytelling of the film, the way David wrote the film, with it being so that we actually feel sorry for Seth in the end about what he's gone through with this horrible transformation that's going on, that's happening to him. So basically, for those who haven't actually seen the film is centered around a guy who works for himself, but is actually contracted to a company, self employed to a contract with a big industry, and he's invented teleportation in a nutshell. And and in a moment a moment of spite, he teleports himself from one pod to another. The problem is that a fly gets into the pod with him when he's teleporting, and the machines get confused, and they splice the two together on a genetic level. Now you would think something like that, in reality, if that was possible, the whole DNA of the human absorb would absorb the one from the fly. But that's not the case in this film. It's a case of the fly coming out of the man, and and creating a hybrid. But it's what goes on in between all of this that goes on. It's the emotional background of this film that really draws you in, which is why I was saying that this is more of a satire than it is a horror film. But it's so good to watch. Typical David Cronenberg. If you've seen the movie Videodrome, it's kind of on a similar level of that, because David is quite I wouldn't say an oddball director when it comes to what he does, but it's very visionary. So I really do recommend you watch it if you haven't seen it. And that's The Fly. 1987 was another big year for movies. And with this one, I've picked a certain Joe Dante film for this one, and it's Inner Space, starring Dennis Quaid and Martin Short. Now, I remember seeing this for the first time. I think I was maybe 8 or 9 years old on the TV, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliant. The comedy in this film is absolutely on point. Martin Short is absolutely hilarious in the film. He really is. Dennis Quaid plays a disgraced pilot who gets a job at a science institute where they're doing a medical study of rabbits, like the anatomy of a rabbit. But something goes wrong, and he inadvertently gets injected into Martin Short. So you can imagine what's going to happen after this. Not going to tell you exactly what goes on, but it's a really good comedy. You really should watch it. It has Meg Ryan in, I believe, her first major movie role. So, like I say, the lovely Meg Ryan, she's so wonderful in the film. We've also got Bob Picardo in there, the Doctor from Star Trek Voyager, and a lot of familiar faces in the Joe Dante in the Joe Dante family of actors. There's a lot of people in there that you recognise from his other films. So that's in a Space from 1987. 1988 sees Tim Burton coming into the fold with Beetlejuice. Another one like In a Space that I saw when I was just a kid. I think it was the early 90s when I first saw this film. And I loved it straight away. I thought it was great. I loved I loved the eeriness of it, and the fact that it had a little bit of comedy, and the lovely Winona Ryder. Had a little bit of a crush on her at the time, so it was good to see her in this film. And Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. Now it's really odd that you get a movie where its title character is only in it for a very short period of time. But example of that is Jaws. But there was a reason why Jaws wasn't integral to why you didn't see a huge amount of him, because he didn't work. This was a human. This is a humanoid character in Beetlejuice because he's played by Michael Keaton, so you'd expect to be seeing him a lot throughout the movie, but you don't. It's more about the. It's more about the these two. This family that have moved into a house of a deceased couple who were there as ghosts, and it's what the deceased family are trying to do to get this family out of the house, but to befriend their daughter Lydia, who is Winona Ryder, and it's just all of this that accumulates to Beetlejuice being woken up and doing his thing. It's such a great film. I love it. I really do love it. It'd be hard pressed to say you should watch it if you haven't seen it, because you probably have seen it in your lifetime, you just don't know you have. But anyway, yeah, that's Beetlejuice, my movie from 1988. Moving on to 1989. Now then, like I said, another big year for movies. Probably the better year out of the 80s in terms of releases. You had the likes of Batman, whatever else, I can't really think off the top of my head. There was quite a few, but Batman was the big film of that year. But not my film of 1989. My film of 1989 goes to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Why? Because I just really liked the film, and I could watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids more than Batman, and I know my friend Ben will be absolutely crucifying me for that, because me and him have grown up with Batman for years. We've been friends since we were 3 years old, and we've grown up with Batman for a lot of years. But I've got to break the mold at some point, you know. But Honey, I Shrunk the Kids for me is not as good as the Goonies, but it's almost there. It is. It's almost there. It's a great kids film. You know, I could still watch it now. Actually, to be honest, the whole concept of exploring, of trying to get home while you're while you're actually in the garden, is does sound a bit strange, but it works for what the film is actually about, and it's about a bunch of kids that are accidentally shrunk down to a centimeter in height, and they're taken out with the trash, and they have to get back home to get zapped to their regular size, basically. So yeah, it's just that idea of explore a good way of exploring your garden and what goes on underneath the grass. I just think it's a really good movie. It really is. What goes on throughout that film as well, it's really good as well. I really like the adult. I wouldn't necessarily say the adult humor, because it is played as a comedy, but the adult, what goes on between the adults with the neighbors and Rick Moranis and his wife is just it's comedy. Some of it is comedy gold. It really is, and that's why it has that little spot in my heart, and that's why it's my movie of 1989. 1990 sees the turn of a live action of a live action adaptation of The Heroes on the Half Shell. Jamie Powell, if you're watching this, I am a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles person. Very much so. Loved the cartoons. Didn't really read the comics because I didn't know that there were comics based. I didn't know there were comics before the film. I did know about the cartoon, but not the comics. I love the first team. Love the first TMNT. I think it's absolutely great. I could still watch it now and feel like a kid. You all feel when you watch that film now. You do feel like a big kid when you watch it. It's great. It's got that aurora of it. It doesn't really it doesn't suck you in, but it's got some really cool scenes in it, especially the introduction of the Shredder. I love that introduction of the Shredder, the music, the powerful music, the way they use the shadow to introduce him and everything else. Oh, it's just great, really great direction from Steve Barron there. Yeah, and even the script from what they were they were all given, I just think it just comes together so well, you know. So yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990 is my pick. And the last film that in this list goes to a movie that should have actually been earlier in the list. It should have been from 1980. I think was it 1982. Yeah, 1982. I'm not really out of this particular franchise. The second movie in this franchise is not my favorite, and it is the strong favorite within the fan community. And for those people that are watching this that are fans of this particular franchise, I don't care. This is my favourite one of the franchise. It's my favourite one of 1991. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Yes, Wrath of Khan is number 2. It was a tough choice, but I had to make. But it's a choice that I've made, and I'm sticking with it. And if you don't like it, you Star Trek fans, you know where you can put it. Anyway. Sorry guys, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. But anyway, Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country is my movie of 1991. Why is it my movie of 1991 and not like Terminator 2, Judgment Day? That was very close in getting it. It was very close in getting it. But Star Trek for me is like, it's my diamond in the rough. I really love this. I really love this movie. I mean, there are a couple of other Star Trek films that I really do like. Like I said, The Wrath of Khan is one of them, but it doesn't come anywhere near close to this one. I love this movie simply because it's got, it's just, I don't know. I've watched this film so many times. But the first time I saw it, it wasn't so much the everything. It wasn't so much the action sequences that drew me to it. It was the fact that it was the subject matter, for some reason it was the politics involved in this movie is what drew me to like this movie more than any of the other original series cast. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. Which is one of those things. And I've watched this movie so many times throughout my life. When I discovered Star Trek, I just think it's that particular one that just really hits it with me for that very reason. The politics in the film are just, I don't know. It's just really odd that I like it for that reason. But it does have some pretty good action sequences in it as well. So and it was a good way to end, and it was a good way to end the original series cast of movies as well before they brought, obviously, before they brought Generations in, you know, which for, I wouldn't say for logical reasons, but it was a decent enough film. It just pissed a lot of people off with a particular thing. But if they hadn't put that in and done it in that particular way, you could have justified why they decided to go with that film. But The Undiscovered Country was a really good thank you note to the original series, not the original series cast, but the original series. It's what Gene would have wanted out of an episode of the original series, which is something that wasn't really covered in the original series from the episodes that I've seen anyway. I know there was quite a few episodes throughout its 4-season run, but as far as I'm aware, there wasn't many that actually covered the actual politics and the overall ways that Star Trek was going to become in the next generation, which is where I first started watching the franchise, was the Next Generation with Jean-Luc Picard and, you know, William and Riker and Data and all of them. But yeah, that's The Undiscovered Country is my number one movie of 1991. So what I'm going to do in the next video, obviously that's going to be from 19. I'm going to do that from 1991 again. So there'll be two from 1991, one in this video and the other one in the next video as well, because we're doing 91 to 2001, and then it's going to be a regular occurrence in the other videos. So there'll be two favorite movies from 1991 and 2001 and 2011 as well. So anyway guys, that is my list of favorite movies from each year of my life from 1981 thus far. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure to give it a like. But before I do go, I've got a little something for you. I've got a little something for you guys, and I mean a little something for you guys. I went out and bought a few things a couple of weeks ago, and I actually recorded a video of it, but I never got around to finishing the editing process of that video. So I've abandoned that, and I'm doing a giveaway. The giveaway was going to be a part of that video, but I'm going to do it in this one, and I'll announce the winners to it when I finish this little series. So what I'm going to be giving away, guys, I'm going to be giving away a copy of the latest remake or reimagining adaptation of the classic arcade game Mortal Kombat. I already have the 4K of this, which is why I'm giving this copy away. So if you would like to have a chance at winning this copy, all you have to do is like this video, share it, and tell me in the comments who your favorite character in the Mortal Kombat franchise is. Now, I'm not looking for the likes of Freddy Krueger or the Terminator. I don't want any, no characters from different franchises. I want Mortal Kombat characters only in this one. So, like I say, if you want a chance to win this, tell me who your favorite Mortal Kombat character is, along with liking the video and sharing it, and I'll announce the winner of this giveaway at the end of this series. So that's that. And like I say, if you did like the video, like I said, give it some thumbs up. Let me know what you think of my picks from these 10 years that I've given you. And yeah, I think that just about covers it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Really do appreciate it. Look forward to more videos coming up pretty soon. Like I say, there'll be another 3 of these videos coming. So look forward to those, guys. And I'll see you next time. So this is Ready Player Movies signing off.